a show created by the fans for the fans. We are your home for Ohio State football coverage all year long. The Scarlet and Gray Podcast, a Network 216 production. Live weekdays on the Network 216 YouTube channel. Send us all your questions and comments on Twitter at @VSG_podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Tyler Johnson, Jordan Dalton, and Nick Leisure.
Hello, Buckeye Nation, and welcome to today's episode of the Scarlet and Gray Podcast, your Ohio State versus Penn State game day preview. I am Tyler Johnson, joined by Mr. Jordan Dalton. JD, my man, how are you doing today?
Doing well, excited for this game. I can't believe it's already here. It feels like we were just talking about the Nebraska game. So, yeah, ready to get to it, and it's going to be an exciting day for Ohio State football.
Yeah, absolutely, man. There's plenty to talk about, of course. Before we get to any of it, guys, be sure drop a quick like on the video if you would. Subscribe if you are brand new to the channel. Again, completely free to like the video. It really helps to grow the YouTube algorithm to push it out to people that have not yet seen the show. But also subscribing to the channel. That way you don't miss any Ohio State football content. 2 uploads per week. Just our weekly show that we have on Tuesday nights, normally at Tuesday nights, but last couple weeks had to switch up a little bit, maybe this week as well, just with the upcoming election. But also we have your Ohio State game day previews for you that come out every Friday. You want to make sure that you don't miss those. And again, we really appreciate all that support. JD, Ohio State is going to Happy Valley tomorrow, 12 o'clock kickoff, thankfully. It's a big noon kickoff. I think we're all a little bit thankful for that instead of it being a night game, and not being a whiteout. But it looks like Drew Allar is going to be playing for Penn State. It looks like at quarterback there was some questions with him dealing with a knee injury that kept him out against Wisconsin, the second half against Wisconsin due to that injury. Talk about what that means for Ohio State. Again, you're preparing for a guy who so far this year has taken a big step forward, and Allaire is now on the radar of many NFL draft scouts. And if he has a good performance against the Buckeyes, he could be one of the highest quarterbacks taken in 2025 NFL draft.
Yeah, so Drew Allar, he's a Ohio guy from Medina High School. I don't think he was offered by Ohio State coming out. They passed on him to bring in a couple other guys. So he kind of has a chip on his shoulder coming into this game. He's played against Ohio State a few times. I want to say this is his 3rd year playing Ohio State. I don't remember if he played last year, but I remember he did.
Yeah, he played. So he played last year, and then I don't believe he played the year before because that was still.
I think he came in the game. I feel like their quarterback got hurt his freshman year.
Very well could have.
So I think this is his 3rd time seeing Ohio State. But yeah, drastic improvement from last season already. He's completing 71% of his passes, averaging 10 yards a pass. He has a great deep ball, but I think we talked about it. He doesn't throw the ball very deep. This offense is not built on the deep ball. Mm-hmm. So he can definitely rip it downfield, though. That was something like coming out of high school, everybody was aware of how big his arm was. So I think there's a lot for him in this game. Like you said, if he plays well against the Buckeyes, that moves him in a first round consideration for a lot of these teams. I think a lot of teams already have a first round grade on him. Athletic dude, he can run. I think like underrated with how fast he is outside the pocket. But yeah, he targets his tight ends really well. I think his number one weapon in the pass game is his tight end, Tyler Warren, who leads the team with 559 yards receiving. So yeah, it's going to be a really interesting test for this defense. I think you could argue he's the best quarterback we will see this year. I think Taylor Gabriel is the most experienced quarterback that we'll see, but I think Drew Allar has the most upside and talent. So definitely going to have to shut him down. And honestly, you're going to have to shut this run game down because that's going to be the center of their offensive attack.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, them having Drew Aller in this game, I mean, don't get me wrong, like it's big from their standpoint, but if you're Ohio State and you're this defense, I think you're kind of licking your chops a little bit because you're going to get a guy who clearly does not seem like is 100% right now, coming off a knee injury, dealing with a knee injury. Yeah. He's not going to have mobility he normally has. So I think that's big in this game is getting after Drew Aller. In this offense, you kind of talk about it. The running game is their staple. That's been a Penn State staple, regardless of who's been quarterback there for the last 10 years. I mean, that is what they do. They have two of the best running backs in the country, Katron Allen, Nicholas Singleton. You could make the argument, because the people probably do, that it is the best duo in college football. Ohio State has something to say about that. But, I mean, it's a very talented group. And you look at Drew Aller, the biggest thing with him is he just is completing a high percentage of passes. You already hit on it. For whatever odd reason, he does not take many deep shots. I don't know if that's by design from the Penn State offensive coordinator. I don't know if that's designed around their scheme. He's got the arm talent. People have seen him do it. So it's kind of mind-blowing that he doesn't take those shots. And the way Ohio State I know there was a penalty last weekend that wiped away a deep ball that Nebraska had. But when you look at it, Drew Aller is going to have to be able to take those shots against this defense, because this defense has been kind of shaky against the pass, especially against Dylan Gabriel. And I think at Penn State in this game is going to need to take some shots. You got Tyler Warren at tight end, who some would say is the best tight end in the country. Outside of that, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, Julian Fleming's playing for Penn State now. He hasn't done really much of anything. Harrison Wallace III is pretty solid. Liam Clifford, but it's mainly Tyler Warren on the offensive side of the ball for Penn State. I think the big thing for me is what Ohio State team, JD, is going to show up in this game. Is it going to be the one against Nebraska, where, don't get me wrong, the defense played well, but there were still plenty of times that, don't get me wrong, Nebraska moved the ball right down the field. I mean, plenty of times. And there was even a ruling from the Big Ten that said on, I can't remember if it was a first down play or whatever the case may be, that actually Nebraska should have had a first down on this play instead of fourth down. And Nebraska ended up kicking a field goal instead of, they potentially could have scored a touchdown. So, I mean, it's going to be very interesting in this game. I think there are a lot of fans, not necessarily us per se, but a lot of fans out there are a little bit worried about the Buckeyes. Where are you currently with this team? Again, didn't play well against Nebraska, even though we won. Ohio State did not play well. And then you look at the game against Oregon, of course, that we lost. So there are some fans that are down the Buckeyes. Where are you currently at with this team?
This is the game right here. I think there's a lot riding on this game, not only for the team and what their aspirations are for playoffs and national championship hopes, Big Ten title hopes, pretty much all come down to this game. I know there's still some games remaining on the schedule, but this is the biggest one that we'll have remaining. Indiana is going to be a force. Looks like they're going to end up pretty good chance they're undefeated when we play them here in a couple weeks. So don't want to overlook them too much, and never can overlook Michigan, even though they're not the Michigan of the last few years. But I think with the history, and this goes back since Ryan Day took over the program, this defense has not been good in big games. And this is a really big game. So they are going to have to do a lot to settle my nerves on the defensive side of the ball, because they just haven't shown it. It's been time and time again, big games, big quarterbacks, big players that we need to stop, and we just cannot prevent them from finding the end zone, creating big plays in big games. We can do it. We can do it against inferior opponents, and we can look good doing it. But in these big top 10, top 5 matchups, we just haven't seen it from a Ryan Day-led Buckeye team. So as much as I love being optimistic, I think that we still can get it done. I still think we could win this football game. I don't think there's a world where Penn State right now is a better, more talented football team, but can this team put it on the field? And we just haven't seen it in the past few years. We didn't see it in the Oregon game. The Oregon game was close. Oregon is really good, and we only lost by 1. But if we play a complete football game in Eugene on that night, we're undefeated right now. And so, yeah, just not super optimistic. I think we can play well, but like I said, we haven't really seen it.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me in this game is, and it's no surprise that this is going to be what I say, the offensive line in this game is my biggest worry, because likely what is going to happen is Donovan Jackson is going to play left tackle. Okay, so he's moving from guard to tackle, which is very difficult in any circumstance. Like, let me just say that, especially when you haven't played it. On top of that, Carson Hinsman's probably going to jump in for Donovan Jackson at left guard. We'll see. That's my guess. Donovan Jackson is going to have to go up against one of the best pass rushers in college football in Abdul Carter. He is fantastic. He's got 4 sacks this year, had 9.5 last year. Zane Durant, their defensive tackle, he's got 2.5 sacks, which doesn't sound like much, but he is third. He's not third, my apologies. I know he's in the top 5 in the country as far as pressure rate. That makes me really nervous in this game, because the Ohio State offensive line has struggled. Will Howard has been pressured the last couple weeks here, ever since Josh Simmons went down. And that's my biggest worry in this game is, can the offensive line do enough in this game? Because I really don't know. When you're averaging 2.5 yards a carry ever since Josh Simmons got hurt, if you can't run the ball in this game against Penn State, I'm not saying Will Howard can't win Ohio State this game. But when Ohio State becomes a one-dimensional team, that makes them so much – I mean, let's be real. It makes any team so much more easier to defend. But that really is going to make this – that's really going to make every throw Will Howard makes crucial in this game. Mm-hmm. The offensive line scares me, because I just don't know if this offensive line, this unit, is going to be able to do enough against this Penn State defensive line, because, again, Hinsman hasn't played much this year. Donovan Jackson, I know he played it against Nebraska, didn't do great, and you're asking your best offensive lineman to move from his position to play left tackle against one of the best edge rushers in college football. So that's my biggest worry. Is Will Howard going to have enough time to make plays? And if he does, is he going to be able to make those plays again? This is a tough environment for him. He's got a ton of experience, but I think he'll be up to the challenge personally. We know he's got a chip on his shoulder with the fact that Penn State passed on him. He is a Pennsylvania kid, and Penn State passed on him straight up. They did not recruit him. They did not go after him, and so he's got something to prove in this game. But I agree with you a little bit more on the defensive side of the ball. But the one thing I will counter with on the defense that encourages me, this defense last year shut down Allar, shut down Drew Allar, shut down this entire Penn State offense. And I think that's something that's at least encouraging in that regard. But Penn State's new offensive coordinator, so we'll see what ends up happening there. Before we kind of move on, we give our we first talk about Buckeyes to cover the spread, give our picks. How do you feel about this offensive line going into this game tomorrow?
Yeah, pretty uneasy. 3 out of the 5 positions, I believe, have been rearranged from starting day. So not great. Like you said, Donovan Jackson's still on the line, but they moved him out to left tackle. First time ever playing left tackle in a game. So yeah, we'll see. Not super optimistic about that either. But maybe they have a plan. And I thought they would have a better plan coming out of the bye week, which is why I'm usually pretty optimistic when it comes to Ohio State football and in regards to, the coaches know better than I do, but watching that game on Saturday and rewatching it again and seeing how they came out offensively and just the offensive line play. Not super optimistic. I'm hoping they figured something out in the last couple of weeks. But we're down basically three spots on the offensive line with Donovan Jackson moving out to left tackle. So just hope we can get that run game going. That's going to be the biggest key to everything. And we just haven't seen it since we lost Josh Simmons. So just gotta hope we see something different, something to change my mind.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm right there with you, man. I really am. I do think one thing to add for Buckeye fans, I do think we're going to see Bo Pribula in this game. Even though he isn't starting, it appears it's going to be Drew Allar. They love to incorporate him in the quarterback run game. I think with Allar especially being more immobile than other weeks, I think we even see him maybe a little bit more than we normally would. So just something to keep in mind. They really do like to involve him in the run game, and especially when you have him, Katron Allen, and Nicholas Singleton in the backfield together, very, very difficult to defend Penn State. So, but again, in case you're just joining us, Drew Allar is expected to play in this game. Ohio State is going to be shuffling the offensive line around in the wake of the Josh Simmons injury, and then Mikowski being injured and out for this game. JD, it does look like the Buckeyes can get back Lathan Ransom. We'll see how mobile he is, because again, we really don't know his health. We go by what Ryan Day says, but as we've learned throughout the years, Ryan Day does not give any information when it comes to injuries whatsoever. So hopefully Lathan Ransom's good to go. Okay. Ohio State in this game, as of right now, is a 3.5-point favorite on the road in Happy Valley. Again, big noon kickoff, which I think benefits the Buckeyes. We know it's going to be a crazy environment regardless, but the fact that this is not a night game, it's not a whiteout, does benefit Ohio State. So do you think Ohio State covers the spread? And overall, what is your score prediction?
Oh, I think Penn State's not a better team than Oregon. I think Oregon's a better team. Both of these are away games, which, looking at Ohio State's schedule, didn't benefit us at all. Our two toughest games are away. But I think that we go into Happy Valley and get a win. You look at James Franklin's record against Ohio State; he has not been very successful. I believe he's 1-9 against Ohio State. So I think that plays a little bit of a factor into it, and not super optimistic. I don't know if we're going to cover. I think it'll be a 3-point game. I think it ends up being, it's tough. Like 31-30, 31-34. Yeah, 34-31 Ohio State.
Okay.
So I don't think the defenses play a whole lot into this game, but I think Ohio State has enough firepower on offense to get it done.
Okay. No, I mean, I like that. Okay, so for me, this team has just been so frustrating this year because I feel like it has all the talent in the world, and it just seems like we cannot, for whatever reason, we just continue to struggle. And it's incredibly frustrating because, again, this is the most talented Ohio State team we've had since our national championship team in 2014. James Franklin does not play well against Ohio State. He's never been able to get over that hump. But up until this year, another thing to keep in mind, Dan Lanning had never beaten a top 5 team until Ohio State came to town. The thing that makes me nervous, like I've said, is the offensive line in this game. I don't know if this offensive line is good enough as it currently is constructed to win this football game. That doesn't mean the players around him aren't, but we know from Big Ten football experience, from the elite teams in college football, if you are good in the trenches, you normally are going to win the football game. And right now, that is my biggest worry with this team. You're going into a place in Happy Valley. Ohio State's won, but right now the Buckeyes are really shaky. First off, I don't think they're going to cover 3.5. I really don't. And funny enough, I'm not going to be the first person to project this as an Ohio State fan. I don't think the Buckeyes win on Saturday. I understand James Franklin against Ohio State is not good. Ryan Day's record also against top 5 opponents is not good either. And we saw Dan Lanning do it, never win a top 5 matchup. James Franklin, he has the opportunity to do it. And I just think in this game, I think Penn State is going to be the hungrier team. I've seen Ohio State the last couple of weeks we struggle early, and it just goes to show championships are not bought just consistently having the highest paid roster, highest paid coaching staff. It takes more than that. And I don't think Ohio State is good enough in the trenches on the offensive line. And Penn State has one of the better defensive lines in the country. And I think that's where it shows. I think Penn State's running game, we know for sure they're fully healthy. We don't know about the full health of Quinshon Judkins. Travion Henderson obviously hasn't looked great the last couple of weeks. I have Penn State in this game. I have them 24-21, and it pains me to say that, but that's where I'm at right now. I'm hoping what this has is that reverse psychology effect, and Ohio State goes out and steams Rome. So
little reverse jinx.
That's what I'm hoping for. Seriously, for those who aren't aware, I used to host a Browns podcast until we just, unfortunately, as a show, just don't have the time to do it anymore. I would actually pick against the Browns, and funny enough, they would win. So hopefully that has the same thing here. Picking against Ohio State, they end up steamrolling Penn State on Saturday. But JD, as we're wrapping things up, my man, anything else you want to add?
The seat is hot. Is all I gotta say. Unfortunately, I think Ross Bjork, the new athletic director at Ohio State, I think he is just waiting for Ryan Day to slip up. I think it's a matter of time. If Ryan Day doesn't get it done against Penn State this weekend, it'll be burning. That's all I can say.
We're gonna have. I'll say this: we're gonna have quite a conversation next week. If Ohio State does lose this game, so I'm warning people right now, for everyone that watches this show. Not been afraid to even briefly talk about it, but I'm telling you, if Ohio State loses against Penn State, it's going to get really interesting next week. So just be on the lookout for the show. But anyway, guys, be sure to drop a like on the video. Subscribe if you are brand new to the channel. We appreciate you tuning into this Ohio State versus Penn State game day preview. We will talk to you guys all again next week. As always, go Buckeyes, baby.